Welcome to Nintendo Voice, your voice for everything Nintendo. This is episode 99.5, recorded on the 19th of July 2017. My name's Lewis Pugh, and joining me to talk Nintendo, we have Harrison Milfeld.
We're not rounding this episode up. We're not.
Not yet. Later.
Not yet.
And of course, Colin Crompton.
Yeah, 99.5. This is where things have got to because we're not quite ready for 100.
The numerical value everyone has been waiting for. We didn't want to skip on this one in particular.
Or we're lying and we're saying that is a clue to basically our radio station where Mr. Voice will be on weekly. I don't know.
Yeah, and through subsequent episodes we'll be revealing
it's on the AM waves though, so it's going to be a little bit.
The one that no one uses. Fantastic.
And today we've got a bit of a special episode. And I think that's kind of the accurate term to use here. We're aiming, at least, and I know we've said this many a time, and so we may be lying here, but we're aiming for a smaller episode. It's Colin will scold me now. It's a little bit of a buffer episode, to be honest. Yeah, I got scolding because we have some cool things planned for episode 100, and not just for the episode itself, but the show going forwards. And we still, in all honesty, need a little bit extra time to prepare. So we've got this 99.5 episode for you, and it's all about one feature, really. We do have the bonus round at the end, and a special bonus round question to ask for you for next week. But our feature is all around hype. Looking forward to things, being excited for what's to come, and thought that was quite appropriate for making this jump through, the kind of the pre-episode 100 and the show going forward into its season 2, essentially. And so we're not talking about us though, not this week, but we're going to be talking about anything really in the game space, which we've had hype around previously, and it could be not necessarily things we're like feeling good about, to be excited about. It could be things we're dreading, or just sort of the anticipation in the game industry. And I think the immediate thought was to jump into like particular game titles when we kind of previewed this and a pre-show discussion. But we can venture out because there's some obviously other great areas. We've got things like actual console launches, and also what I was thinking before the show, press events like E3 itself is kind of a big hype machine, and all these things come out of. So to stop my babbling, does anyone have anything to mention? Any particular memory come to mind when they think of hype and anticipation in video games?
It's very there's a lot to choose from here, and
yeah,
and that's the overarching thing we're doing with this episode is that like I said, the lead up to 100 essentially we're trying to hype this up, and what better way to say is like talk about hype moments in the industry itself. And I could say hype can be a bit of a double-edged sword in times where you hype yourself way too much, and then whether or not you're led to disappointment. And to me, I thought probably a great example of that was maybe this past E3 when everything was kind of leading up to how what this length of the show was going to be and what was going to be covered. And of course, I just, being the long-time Nintendo fan that I've been, it's just temper those expectations and everything will be fine. And of course, it worked out well. And right now, Lewis is taking out his Switch cart of Breath of the Wild, and I am only trying to realize, are you going to taste it right now in the show?
A bit delayed.
I have that suspicion. That wasn't my original intent.
Oh, okay.
But now I've put it in my hands. I'm almost tempted. That feels cliche.
Go on, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
In the honor of the title of the episode, I will leave you hanging. And later on, we can find out whether I lick it or not. There we go. That we can evaluate the anticipation there and the impact it had, and also the effect it has on me if I do.
I'll go get mine, and maybe we'll do that simultaneously. And I was going to say, Colin will react in horror.
I'll just sit here and be
Yeah, little.
This is what the podcast has come
in
to.
the corner, licking his disc of Breath of the Wild. An internet first history can be made on internet.
No, I would. No,
I doubt anyone's licked a disc of Breath of the Wild on camera before.
I'm sure that people have done some very bad things to Breath of the Wild discs. I don't know, maybe one or two, but.
So, should we start with Zelda as a series? I think that's a series which has had many games which have like big announcements for, big anticipation, reveals, build-ups to the actual release.
Yeah, a lot of.
If we had to pick one, what's kind of like the most anticipated Zelda, personally to you? That the Zelda game, which wasn't out yet, and you couldn't wait to get your hands on to play it.
For me, I mean, the one that I first saw and I was like, "That's interesting," is when they show Skyward Sword for the first time, and they didn't show any gameplay; they showed a painting.
This is true, yeah.
And it's just the Legend of Zelda, and they showed a painting, and it was like, "That's interesting." And that got me very intrigued and excited for the game. I didn't know anything about it. Of course, Skyward Sword, at least to me, I didn't think it was actually that good. I feel like most shows held it back a bit. But the build-up for it, everybody's going to hate you for that. But
you're entitled to the opinion. That's fine. It's just there are other things that bothered me about that game, and the controls were the least of that. And yeah.
See, the thing I liked about the Skyward Sword the most was stuff. The story was really well told. It was just the controls like there. But hype-wise, Skyward Sword definitely. Yeah.
Oh wow! I mean, oddly, as much as I like Skyward Sword, it was probably fairly down on the hype level for me. And I'm not sure why I really liked Skyward Sword. I was really into the Wii as well, and it was obviously a Wii exclusive. But immediately comes to mind. I mean, it might be a bit obvious, but I mean, Ocarina of Time was through the roof levels. Having played the 2D Zeldas and just being excited, about the 64 in general, jumping into 3D gaming, and then seeing. It wasn't the odd thing actually thinking about it. Like the very early Zelda Ocarina of Time footage, or before it was Ocarina of Time, was quite rudimentary. It wasn't really that exciting in of itself. Like it was much more simple than what you were doing in the 2D Zelda games. But it kind of got your brain working. It's like, wait, if it's like as big as those games I've played, but it's this big 3D space I can look around in, it would seem much more immersive, much more impressive. It's much more bigger world to kind of get lost in.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time's a weird one for me because I was far too young to have any expectations. I would have been 8 when it was released. Yeah. So,
it's fine Zelda playing age. I guess, although your point probably more so is that like you weren't kind of as not clued in, but in the know, as it were.
Well, I mean, Ocarina of Time was my second Zelda game that I played. The first being Link's to the Past. I didn't have any expectations for it. It was just, I think of Zelda's going forth. I was definitely more excited for. When I heard Majora's Mask, my brother showed me a magazine with Majora's Mask in it. I was excited for that. I wasn't super hyped for it, but I was like, yes, can't wait to play this. How about you, Harrison? What's your most hyped Zelda game?
You brought up a lot of good. The first thing I'd probably say would be Ocarina of Time or even Skyward Sword, because even Skyward Sword itself, I was anticipating so much for whatever going into. I put my pre-order down for that game for the special edition, which included like a sampling of the Zelda Symphony and of course the Golden Wiimote. To me, I find that is one of my favorite collectibles from that era. And with Ocarina of Time, that could possibly be up there for me because it's that first transition from a series where I felt like that peaked. I wouldn't say peaked, but reached its near a near high point, like a high point, whatever, with A Link to the Past, and then the transition to 3D, of course. Like with Mario and Mario 64 before, it just belonged through the gate. But I wasn't as hyped for that one. It wasn't just because of I didn't dislike the series or anything like that. I was enamored, of course, but my brother was the one who was the most hyped for that, and this is, of course, around the time he was almost starting to get out of video games. So, but the one that I really liked that I built so much hype to, and it was over a steady long time. Obviously, you could say the same thing for any Zelda title, knowing the delays that come with them. It was Twilight Princess. Of course, that starts. And it started, with that E3 2004 trailer that we saw that will live in legend of sorts. When
Still the greatest trailer Nintendo's ever made. Yeah.
And of course, anticipating that to be released next year, gets delayed and becomes a Wii launch title. And it's just the hype building up to me, because not only I was getting a new Zelda, but also I was investing myself into a new console. So one that really I thought was going to build up a lot in terms of innovation, but also a lot of potential. Now, of course, my opinions on that console have a bit soured over the years, but I won't say so much negativity towards its games lineup, even if it's littered with quite a bit of shovelware. But to me, that particular entry in the Zelda franchise, I built so much to me myself, where I'm like, okay, this is building up to be that Zelda adventure I really wanted. And it did at that time, but of course, once I played the HD remake, and even subsequent times that I replayed it on my Wii, I don't know. It's having the effect that I feel like what Breath of the Wild did. It's like, can I go back to a game like that and still enjoy it? But still, I will never. I never regret the moments of anticipation that I had from probably. I mean, I never really shopped at a store like Hot Topic, and I had a Zelda's Twilight Princess shirt in there, and I saw it in the window. And I was like, "Yep, that's mine." That was my build up for a hype.
Impulse buy.
Yes. So that was something to me as far as like Zelda. I really do feel like, would anybody agree that out of Nintendo series, that builds the most hype out of anything?
Always.
Even it's not Nintendo's top franchise, knowing that Mario is, but still, Zelda is.
I feel like they treat Zelda with more. Generally, they just show the title first. First E3 they announced it's just The Legend of Zelda, and people.
I think they kind of show. It might be where you're going with it, but it's kind of a bit more prestige.
Yeah,
and they treat Mario. But they're obviously very confident and proud with what they can do in a Mario game. But yeah, I feel there's that special reverence to.
Have we ever had a Mario game where they didn't unveil the title?
Super Mario 3D Land.
Oh, okay.
That's the only one I can think of. I think that's a special exception.
Yeah.
Well,
the 3DS was done so great out the gate, and they needed to get some footage out there. What's to come?
Well,
new Mario game.
I think you might have done that, but I'm cheating you on this one. But when Super Mario Sunshine was unveiled, it was just called Mario Sunshine. But obviously they changed it to Super. But that's
all
right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because Zelda's always had the distress, and it's just Legend of Zelda. And it's always like, what's the title going to be? And when Breath of the Wild was revealed, people weren't mad. They were like, "Oh, it's such a great title." And I'm like, "It's cool. It's great." And it's just a name of a game, and people really go overboard for it. And it does show that, yeah.
Yeah, they have had that tradition. You mentioned Skyward Sword had that similar sort of treatment. It was shown just as a piece of artwork. But they also did the same with Twilight Princess, I think it was. And they just showed... actually, no, sorry, not Twilight Princess. We just covered the reveal of that. I can't remember the name.
Wind Waker?
No. Or are you talking about the 3D remake of Majora's Mask?
I don't think it was that. I'm a bit sidetracked. I'm not sure which game it was. Maybe I'm thinking about Skyward Sword as well. But I'm sure there was another one where they just showed a piece of art of Link, and then later on down the line revealed it was
A Link Between Worlds.
Potentially,
maybe.
Because that was I won't say stealth announced. That was that was initially announced in a direct, just out of nowhere. Oh wow, but it was rumored for a while. So
yeah, and it seemed like there's a little bit of confusion where it's is this a sequel? Is this a remake? Is this what exactly? But I think the last, because we're talking a lot of Zelda here. I wanted to cover a different part of like anticipation or hype and such. And it's not about knowing of a game's coming out before its release, but just kind of like discovering a game for the first time. And an example I have for this might seem quite bizarre, but it was for A Link to the Past. And at this point, when I discovered A Link to the Past, I'd already played through, not to completion, but a lot of Link's Awakening on the Game Boy.
Okay.
Because I played a lot of Game Boy before I had a Super Nintendo. And I'm not sure why these events happened, but I'm pretty sure I was on a family holiday. And for some reason, I ended up buying on A Link to the Past, Super Nintendo cartridge in the box. And it came, like a lot of games did back in the day, with a manual, but also with a big map.
Yep.
And I remember like spending some evenings of this holiday just kind of like poring over this map and like wondering what my adventures to be would be like. And this was kind of like my first proper look at what the game was, because I knew the basic, it's Legend of Zelda, but
I had a
like,
very similar experience with Star Wars Rebel Strike on GameCube. I purchased it while on holiday, but wasn't able to play it until we got back. And I loved Rogue Squadron. And I'm like, what's this game got in store for me? Yeah, very much the same situation. I didn't have a map to look over. I was just reading the manual over and over again. Like,
I think the map really did help, because it's like one of these obviously Nintendo maps, and it has like
definitely
little hints and tips and like suggestions of maybe you should check out over here. It could be something special.
Back when manuals had a lot of thickness to them, and
yes.
I think it was right during the Wii era when it cut down. But also, I forgot which one it was, but I grabbed the manual. I'm like, oh, this instruction manual is really thick, and then I looked through it. And I'm like, oh, there's 3 sections for different languages. I'm like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, we always got that. Yeah, good old Europe.
Yeah, look, I didn't even know there was this many languages. So let's move from Zelda. So let's think about like reveals of like new like entire franchises, because I think that's a good time to build anticipation, because you don't actually know what that series is like yet, and so you got the whole like the gameplay itself is a bit of a mystery. And one of the good examples of recent years I can think of is Splatoon, at least for me.
I was about to say that was going to be my answer to it, because when that was revealed during the 2014 Direct, the 2014 E3 Direct, my initial thought going into it was like, okay, the way it was presented felt like it was a third party presenting a new game on Nintendo, and I didn't realize until about after the Direct, I'm like, oh no, this is being developed in-house for Nintendo. I'm like, okay, now I'm a little bit more interested. So, but even since then, it wasn't until I think after the year, or once we got maybe a month or two closer to it, where I was generally just intrigued by mechanics of it, whatever. So this is a way of like hype kind of slowly building for that one, where I just didn't care about it. The name sounded very off-putting to me, and I don't know, it's like, okay, what can you do as far as a third-person paintball game? Or as I was calling it at the first portion. So, and again, I was proven wrong once I got it. I mean, I bought it a month later after release, and I was hooked. So that has an effect on me. But as you were saying, Lewis, I mean, yeah, I was like,
Yeah, I can't think of any like new IPs that I was generally super excited for. Nothing really springs to mind. The only game I can think of going back that, I mean, it's a sequel to a previous game, but it's probably the most excited I've been, although, yeah, I'll say most excited and eagerly couldn't wait to get my hands on it was Brawl on the Wii, mainly because of the way they doled it out. They show it have those little tidbits like every week. Yeah, that's what I was a masterstroke in anticipation building, and it worked for me. I'll slightly play it.
So was it daily updates or was it weekly updates on Brawl?
It might have been daily.
Yeah, on the weekdays.
The dojo, was it the dojo?
Yeah, the Smash Dojo.
Yeah, that was awesome. But when you saw Snake being revealed, like what? I can't wait to play it.
And like Sonic as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When that was the post of the day, Sonic's going to be in Smash.
Yeah. I think they did an okay job with the 3DS and Wii U one, but I don't think they could quite capture the amount of surprise of having certain third-party characters in it. I think when we saw Pac-Man turn up here, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. That was unexpected, but I think that's about as good as it got, really. But yeah,
because ironically, some of the most exciting characters we didn't get till after the game came out, so that had obviously
that's true. Oh yeah, man! Imagine if Bayonetta.
Exactly.
Bayonetta was
today's post, Bayonetta going to be in the game.
It's like what? Ryu and that would have been crazy. Cloud, especially.
I'm glad that because I was at work during that direct when they unveiled Cloud, and thankfully I just shut off everything on my phone. It's like I'm going home. And
media blackout.
Yeah, no, I did, and I was kind of covering my eyes, when I went to I was like, okay, why don't I go to something that doesn't reveal because when Nintendo does these things, they'll release separate clips for YouTube channels. So I didn't want to do that, so I got to it, got the handle, and wow, I was that to me. I mean, well, that's up there in terms of reveals that were held under lock and key.
Mm-hmm.
It just the nothing was at, because that was at the point when Nintendo was getting crazy leaks out of there between what was going on with the Switch, what was going on with the different Smash Brothers characters. It was just out of control.
Yeah.
So, but that's one up there. So,
Actually, that's an interesting point. Do you guys think leaks help build hype, or do they diminish it?
Do they what?
Do they lower it?
I'm thinking of more negative examples than I can of positive ones. In fact, I'm struggling to think of a positive leak.
Yeah, so am I.
Well, I mean, leaks do kind of essentially give away to the surprise of it, but also the fact hey, you're still getting it. That's what it comes to.
Yeah.
I feel oh wow, the person in the suit on the TV did not tell me this right away. It's to me, it's I'm in a neutral stance to it. If it's leaked, it's leaked. That's it. That's really all I can say about it. But if somebody warns me and I don't hear about it, hey, this is leaked right now. If you want to read it or talk about it, do not click. And
exactly,
I make the conscious choice myself to say I'm not going to look at it.
That's when it spoils for you that it becomes. I think because the surprise factor does help. I think does think, oh, this is coming. This is awesome. I mean, Metroid Prime 4 got announced, and none of us saw it coming.
Oh no!
And I'm hyped for that. I'm hyped for Metroid Prime 4. I can't wait. I don't have a Switch. I'm hyped for it. Yeah. So.
Hey, they're getting readily available right now, so
yeah, I will get to work on that.
One of these new Splatoon 2 bundles, new in stock.
Ooh. But no, I like that's the concept of leaks, and when it kind of interferes with hype, whatever. I mean, to me, it helps redefine it a little bit, or it just fuels it. To me, it's like with spoiler warnings, for instance. It's you choose to do whatever you want to see that. I mean, I have a friend of mine, I know, that does not watch movie trailers. I understand that. Now, when it comes to movie trailers, you have to look in the innards of basically of how, what they're trying to do. It's what are they trying to do? Market a movie. Yes,
Yep.
There are certain trailers out there that spoil practically a lot of bit of surprises in there, and sometimes they hide them. So, I mean, a good example for something like that is for a movie I just saw today was War for the Planet of the Apes. And one thing I would tell to people when they go see it, and it's a movie I loved. I loved it. It was a fitting conclusion to that whole reboot trilogy, is if you're expecting a lot of action in this one, you're going to be greatly disappointed, because that's not what they're marketing there. What they're usually marketing is a drama / kind of a Western almost. That's really what I kind of felt like. It's a revenge story.
That is bizarre, though, because the title of the movie is War.
Well,
and there's not a lot of action in it.
There is conflict. There's conflict to it. So, and even trailers for today's games will do. I wouldn't say they will do that, but I don't know. I'm trying to segue something into like what I was getting to. It's just it's marketing wise. I mean, one could possibly talk about like the same thing, how we were marketed towards Mighty Number 9, for instance, or even No Man's Sky. You know, that itself can probably. I mean, you have people hyping that up for so while, and then you just feel like, you know, you're almost straight up lied to.
So No Man's Sky got a lot of flack for like it being like deceiving about what the game actually was. How come? Because I've seen this trailer. I mean, if you watch the trailer for Metal Gear Solid 2, half the things in the trailer aren't actually in the game. How the hell that gets a free pass? That's ridiculous.
You can't tell if that's genuine or not.
It is. I was generally annoyed by that.
Well, I guess because it is intentional in almost ironically like a mockery type fashion, it's doing deliberately deceive decisive. Whereas you feel that kind of No Man's Sky was just kind of not being able to deliver what it was attempting to.
Yeah, I guess
it's essentially the effect of what. It's essentially what you're trying to get to is the effect of what Peter Molyneux would do when he discusses his game, but times 1,000.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because we know, and I love Peter Molyneux. It just, I will say, he's a man who loved to hype up his games. I remember reading about like the original Fable, how it was going to be the greatest RPG ever made, and how much what you can do, and it was only half of that. I liked the game.
Yeah.
It was not what he was selling in development.
Yeah. Trees will grow in real time. Nah, that won't.
Well, you didn't just wait on them, did you? Trees take a long time to grow.
Yeah, they do.
Had the game sound on.
I didn't consider that. Turn back Fable 1 back on and see if trees are growing.
Get Mr. Assetti if you try and do that. On the topic of leaks, though, we've got Eugene Allen on the live chat. Biggest leak I can think of in recent memory is Mario plus Rabbids. I think the leak helped the game because everyone had the chance to get their digs in early.
Oh yeah,
very fair point. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
I wonder what that game would have received if we first saw it at E3, as in like there was no talk of it. There was maybe a smidge of a rumor or so, but once we saw it on screen, we're like, I want to know if. I still think whatever, it's like people who try to rage on that game early on. I mean, unless you played it, whatever. I always want to point to that picture of crying Ubisoft man, just to say like you do not like that man worked hard on there. He worked hard.
He did.
Yeah, one day we'll have to learn his name, won't we?
No, he's always going to be
crying. It was cool after a certain point.
He's always no. If I ever find him, I'm going to address him as crying Ubisoft man.
I'm sure you won't be the first.
Shake his hand. Hello, Mr. Crying Ubisoft man. I like your game.
Yeah, I think ultimately, yeah, that did help the game. I mean, I would have liked to seen it, just kind of, the fresh impressions people would have had if it was both digesting, Mario and Rabbids together, and wow, this looks like a cool game.
I think it helped the game, but from what I read, the developers were taking a bit of a beating over it. Because the game was getting a lot of like, Mario and Rabbids in the same game, that's really stupid, that shouldn't exist. And of course they're still making the game thinking, no one's going to like this.
Yeah.
And of course now it's out and everyone's like, it looks amazing. No, I'm intrigued by that game, definitely.
I wonder if that kind of actually altered their plan on how they revealed it at E3.
Possibly, yeah.
So like maybe if if we hadn't known anything about it, we've got like a very different type of trailer, more of a like
you're saying
to the idea of the two franchises mashing up instead of to go all out like let's prove that this is really good.
Let's bust out Miyamoto and bring him on stage to help sell the game. I got a feeling if they revealed it normally, he wouldn't be on the Ubisoft stage with a gun going, hey,
Was he like the emergency shoot?
Yeah, of course he is. You bring Miyamoto out. He can sell ice to Eskimos, that guy.
Well-known fact. Or little-known fact, potentially. What corners of fandom you come from?
Well, one thing I wanted to brought up, whatever, to me is, do you think hype itself can kill one's interest in a game? As in, it's, well, you build up
As
too
in, you
much.
get like overhyped.
Or is it
Overhyped.
more of like being overexposed to something? Like you feel like you know it so well, and it's not even out yet, so it's not as exciting to pick up because it feels like it's been around for ages.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to. It's just I mean, I was hyped for a game like, say, Breath of the Wild, but I did my best not to kind of dig as deep as I could. But also, I would thank Nintendo for actually, whether it's their trailers and what they showed during Treehouse footage, they did a fine job of hiding a lot of stuff. Like in terms, like I don't, aside from maybe that Switch trailer that we saw back in January, but like the one that I gushed over, just thinking like this is probably one of the better trailers that Nintendo's ever done story wise. In terms of story and everything else, there was a lot of hidden stuff. Like I didn't know anything else that was going into it. So, I mean, that's the beauty of that game, and how much I love it. But in terms of like hype,
for me, on the flip side of the coin, the game that got like overexposed to me was Xenoblade Chronicles X. Because they showed that game so early on. They're like, oh, we're making this game. Okay, cool. And then like it'll just pop up around and they shoot the same bits, like the Ark crashing into the earth and all this. It's like, okay.
I was in the deep end of that. I was in the deep end of that hype pool. I was swimming.
Harrison was drowning.
I was swimming in that hype. And I know people would like generally. I'm like, okay, it was a good game, but it was not up to the par of its predecessor. Really, in terms of like that, because maybe that had to deal with certain design choices or the fact that its story was pretty weak compared to Chronicles. But obviously, but this game was like this game was non-linear, whereas Chronicles is a little bit more linear in terms of, but with a stronger story. But coming out of that game, I was worth it. I mean, once I found a special edition for that for like $90, I plopped down a pre-order for that. But obviously, well, the only bad thing I could probably say about that is here it is, right here. That little Arc thing, whatever, that was a USB thing, and it lights up when you put it on there. The soundtrack. Here's the problem: I own a Mac, and the files do not transfer under. It's not MP3 files. To me, I feel like
Harrison, you got no one to blame but yourself for owning a Mac.
I made a Mac. I love my Mac. I've owned it for so well. This is the thing that killed my hype for base. I'm gonna say it killed my hype of owning the special edition because this thing could corrupt my file, like corrupt my computer.
I think, can you at least format it and just use it as a memory stick for your Mac?
I can.
If you don't mind just blasting the soundtrack off.
Oh, I can. It's just I haven't found anything to actually do with it right now. So, it's possible.
It looks nice.
It really is. But that it made me get some regrets of buying that special edition. But moving on. I know it's just if I had to say something that kind of hype slowly kills out, it was probably a Metroid Other M. A game that I mean, as big as a Metroid fan as I am, I think it was right during the release when a couple of reviews came out. And generally, it's like a 78 or 79 on Metacritic. Decently fine scored on there, but in terms of like Metroid standards, not as high.
Coming off the Prime series especially, you're like, ooh, that's a bit of a dip. Yeah.
But once you find out more about the story, and then I think once I learned more when you were only controlling the game via just the Wiimote, just a single Wiimote, there were some certain concerns rolling around in my head. I played the game. A site that I wrote for, I reviewed it. I think at that time I gave it like a B. And there was one of those archival stories I need to find really badly, but it just, I felt a little bit empty after that one and it didn't take me long to actually 100% that game. So to me, the hype just kind of slowly just divulged into something where I'm just like thinking like I should be more happy about a Metroid game right now. But to me, I'm just going that was serviceable to an extent. I wasn't screaming and writing think pieces about why this ruined Samus, but it's.
I just think the issue they had was they had so many heavy hitters beforehand. I mean, they had Corruption and they had Fusion, Echoes, and they had the whole swath of like high quality games. At the other end, it's a high quality game. It's just not up to the same standard as the Prime games. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I think Other M gets a bit of a bad rap.
Well, the thing is, it's if you excuse some of the abhorrent stuff in there, like
you mean the teeny like Bobby drama stuff?
No. I'm talking about the portions where you go into detective mode, where, like, say, for instance, you're in a certain room and you have an over-the-shoulder view of Samus, and you can't.
You've got to find one little detail.
Yeah, that's it. There is that, and in terms of the controls, that's it. I feel like if this was a Wiimote,
there are some,
it would have been fine.
Weird.
But to me,
like there's a bit where Samus is going through a fire cabin and she's getting hurt because it's hot, and she has the ability to not get hurt,
but not the authorization.
But she refuses to turn it on because she's waiting for her commander to tell her to do it.
Yeah. See.
God damn it, Samus.
That was one of those portions where I'm just like, I literally had to sit down and just look. I'm like, okay. You know how people up to that point were getting really upset about how, there needs to be a better way of Samus losing her abilities and stuff like that. And I like the concept of, like, if you would have kind of just tightened it up, saying, like, hey, some of your stuff that you use on this ship you can't use because it will blow the whole the ship up. So
yeah,
be careful. But to turn off an ability like that's in an area you need to use to survive. I sat down my Wiimote and I did this, and everybody's looking at me. I'm going, no.
Why is Samus so stupid?
No.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
No, Sakamoto. What kind of idea was that? And you know what? And I respect Michiro Sakamoto. But again, the only thing I can really say about this game is that it's a solid. If you excuse the abhorrent stuff, it's an okay 7 out of 10. But again, not my favorite Metroid title. And it was just a failed vanity project. But again, I know I'm getting too much as far as the hype that kind of built and just fizzled out. I'll go back to the positive as far as another moment, and that was when both, and I'll say it shortly, when both Prime 1 and Fusion released in the same day.
Oh yeah,
first Metroid titles in 8 years, and I was a freshman in high school. Of course, I was super happy that day.
It's like the perfect time in your life as well. Yeah.
God, and for somebody who was a 15-year-old at the time, blowing that much money as far as that much allowance money on that. Oh God, it's so worth it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think now's a good time. Like talking, like kind of transitioning from like looking forward to like multiple games on a single day. I think we should look at consoles. They are the ideal targets for hype, and it's kind of that's the cycle. Well, at least traditionally, how they would be revealed at E3 and then like shown off in more details later on. Trickling information out. You've obviously got your big launch date, you got your big launch games to go with it. So, focusing on the Nintendo side, is what would be like the console or even the portable that at the time you were most looking forward to, that you can think of compared to others either past or
straight away, Game Boy Advance SP.
Ooh, okay, that's interesting. That's a mid-step one.
That's a mid-step.
Why is that the most exciting?
Because I owned the original Game Boy Advance, and I had so many issues with like the screen not being the highest quality screen. It wasn't the best thing to play games off. Also, I felt the design was a bit weird. But when I saw the ESP, like the initial like reveal of the SP, I was like, that's what I want. One of those. And so I tracked that sucker for however long it took for it to come out. I was like, buy one of those. I ended up going with the tribal ones. Didn't really want the tribal one, but it was one that's like, I don't know why that was so popular. It's such a weird design.
I think it might have been the European thing. Harrison, did you have the tribal Game Boy Advance SP?
Tribal?
Yeah, tribal is like a weird like tattoo design.
It's like a silver Game Boy Advance SP with like a black tattoo on it.
I don't think that was here. I don't think so.
That's suspicion. Potentially proven.
European thing.
Yeah, it worked well, it seems.
I guess.
We both had it at one point.
I actually, I did have a lot of hype up going up for, it's really hard to do whatever. I mean, I have vague memories of when my parents drove me and my brother to a local Toys R Us to pick up a Super Nintendo, and that was just because it was for my brother's birthday, I think. And I can just remember, like, the little foam portions that protect the console in there that come in every boxes, and I'm like, was it like 5 or 6 at the time, and I'm sitting there just ripping everything out and just making an entire mess. But those are on there. And then of course we waited a year after the N64 released, and we got an N64 for Christmas. Now the GameCube, and I was going through my that same year, and a reason I wanted to go back up to the Game Boy was Game Boy Advance. I think was like one of my first things I actually was a device that I saved money for to buy. I was a junior in high school, and I remember once the price for that was revealed at the point, I think it was like $130 or $150, I believe. That's usually around that point, and I saved up as much as I could, whatever, like little bits of allowance money, and whether it was like doing landscaping stuff for my dad around the house or around his town, just to anything to make a little bit of dollar, because as a 13, 14-year-old, it really wasn't that much for me to actually pay when it comes to bills, except for, hey, save up for video games. That's all you need to do. And I local Walmart, pre-ordered it from there. Didn't get any pre-ordered games. I bought them just whenever what was available. And I was at my dad's office, and they called me saying it's in. Ride my bike up there, and it was a hot summer night. And I will tell you, just riding through there, it was a drag. It was torture. But once I had that thing in my hand, and I think I got F-Zero Maximum Velocity and Super Mario Advance. And I think looking back at that day, I'm thinking, because there was one copy of Castlevania Circle of the Moon, and I don't know why I didn't pick that up. I don't know, but man, just that ride back down to my dad's office just so I can play that. And then once he saw, looking at technology back then at the early, the beginning of that millennium, he was standing on my shoulder saying, like, they were able to cram that in that little thing right there. I'm like, yeah, was. So, and my dad just walked me over from that. So, and then of course the GameCube released that year, and I remember I begged my parents to get me that for Christmas, and they'd always tell me we can't find it, can't. And for anybody who's heard the story before, how my parents hid it in a tree outside on a snowy day, because I remember I got games for GameCube, and I'm just like, they tried to deflate my Christmas morning, saying like, we got to pick it up next week. So I'm sorry. I'm just like, oh, so I don't have these games to play. And then out there it is. I run out and get it, and man, I love that point. But then of course everybody knows my Wii story when we told about the 10th anniversary, how I waited in a Walmart, like the lawn and garden section for about 12 hours. So there is that.
It's crazy, man.
But hype really builds for me in console launches, and yes.
The Switch. I saw the picture where Harrison came home and he was really excited. He had the Switch in his hand. He's ecstatic. Yeah.
I didn't like how I waited so long. I was thinking like, okay, I'll get there 11:45. Nope, I should have got there early so I could get my pre-order in and out, and not to wait for an hour and a half while they processed everything. Yeah. So that was bad.
So, yeah, I think for myself, I've got 2 examples. One I won't spend too much time on because it's something we have talked about on the show before. So the launch of the Wii, where I think I was just kind of a good age where I had expendable income for like the first time of a console launch, and the fact that there was a Zelda game at launch, the fact that I think I was in the minority, but I was generally excited for motion controls, and there's a big focus on local multiplayer, which I'm obviously it's been well documented that I'm into. And kind of all that together, it was like this really cool package, and there was like a surprisingly good range of games. I mean, there was only a few like exceptional ones, but it had a good variety as well. And there was lots of just interesting things on the horizon. But yeah, didn't want to spend too much time on the Wii. The one I haven't mentioned too much is the original DS.
Mm.
And this was a system I was really excited for.
Was it that Nintendo's trailer? Was it that sold you on it?
No, I'm not sure if it was any particular game. I think it was more, and it's a kind of cool concept in itself. It was kind of more of the promise of what's to come, or just getting your mind working. But yeah, it was just such an odd machine. Especially, I feel this was like the first of the string of weird machines. Because they were fairly traditional before.
Well, I mean, the DS was the weird one because it wasn't called Game Boy. They were starting a whole new handheld.
Yeah, that in itself. But I mean, like before, just like you had your consoles. You have a game on a screen, and you got your controller with buttons. That lasted all the way, to the Wii, where they did the motion controls, and then the Wii with the screen, and blah blah blah. And on the portable side, yeah, the Game Boys were pretty standardized. Like although the competition was never successful, I mean, didn't look that far different. It's just a kind of slab with buttons on the screen. But yeah, the DS with the two screens, the microphone, there was obviously one of them being the touch screen, and this was before the big surgence in modern smartphones.
That's right.
And it also played your GBA games as well as the DS games, and it of course came, I think often forgotten, with an enhanced port of Mario 64.
It did.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
What did everybody like? What did you prefer, the enhanced port of that or the original N64 cart? To me, I had to go back to the original just because I just did not like controlling it on the DS.
I think that lines up quite well because I agree with you. The original game I think is better, even though like on paper the DS game is better, oddly, because it's just more of it. There's more characters, there's more stars.
Yeah,
and it's technically better graphics, even though it's a tiny screen.
Yeah,
but yeah, it just doesn't play as well, I don't feel, with the controls. But yeah, I feel that was a game I was oddly excited for because Mario 64 was an amazing game. It's like, oh, we're going back to this. The first thing which blew me away is like just the idea of this once impressive console game being on a little portable now.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool in itself. And then you had, the X we just talked about, the stars and such. But they also started doing the touchscreen mini games. They chucked that in there, and I think it had some sort of local multiplayer as well, if I'm not mistaken. There was this might have been reserved for the mini game stuff. But yeah, it was just this weird mashup, and it's like kind of how like the GBA launched with like Super Mario Advance, the Mario Bros 2 on a cartridge or on a GBA cartridge. Yeah, I did look forward to that, despite it just being a port on a weird, funky system, which wouldn't really prove its benefits too much further down the road. It did pay off, though.
Oh no, it had to build it was something that had to build itself a little further until, and I feel like the thing that started off like that, aside, well, it launched with a good game right off the bat, but
yeah,
it wasn't until you see things like Brain Age and things that people can take advantage of, and then maybe even Kirby's Canvas Curse was one that first started like, oh wow, we can actually do some things with this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I feel that we are wrapping up on our hype conversation, and we did threaten a shorter episode. Any kind of final thoughts on hype?
Be cautious of hype is what I kind of say. The general thing for me is that, and as somebody who was as hyped as much for the Switch and was glad, it still stayed with me even afterwards. It's just there can be some hype overload out to it.
There can be.
Yeah.
High hype is a dangerous tool that developers can use to push their games. Yeah, the hype can be a very good thing. It can also be the worst thing. So.
Cool. So I'm going to leave on this last question. Are there any games which are yet to be released, which we think might kind of have a backfire on their hype? So any games which are kind of highly anticipated now, do you think might actually end up kind of flopping? It's kind of in a weird manner after this.
It's a rather negative way of looking at things.
It is a bit, but it's an interesting one all the same.
It's interesting.
You know, I mean, I hope this isn't the case, but I kind of get the feeling about Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
You think?
I think it will be good, but not necessarily exceptional. I don't know why.
Potentially.
Again, I hope I'm proven wrong.
Are you saying that mostly because it's such a short time, and you feel like something with monoliths off, it should be taking more time to it? But then again,
that's right. Yeah, it's not necessarily anything on the game itself. Yeah, it's kind of just the story of the development. Knowing the last game wasn't actually that long ago compared to how long these projects usually take to make, and especially the time difference usually between an announcement and the finished product. Yeah, obviously, I hope it's actually exceptional. It's just if I had to pick one in general, so in terms of like the levels of hype I'm personally at and like where it might actually deliver, that might underperform.
I'm gonna strike a game that has a huge fan base, but I'm not sure how hyped people are for it. No, I was going Pokemon Ultra Moon, Ultra Sun. I don't think they're gonna go down well. That's what people think they will, because to me it's not like majorly different or anything. It's just
but I feel they almost get a free pass on it because it's just called Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It's not like number 2 or giving it a separate name and finding out it's basically the same as the last game. It's kind of wearing itself on its sleeve in that sense.
That is a safe bet financially, because you know when you put something a Pokemon game out during that time, it's going to sell.
Oh yeah, yep.
And especially with a new iteration of the 3DS coming out right now, the 2DS, like new 2DS XL. So you've got that.
Definitely.
Now, wait, do I have to answer mine now? Because I feel like I walked out of the room for mine.
If you got one, certainly.
If I had to say that the only thing I is excited by I am for Samus Returns. There's the only little bit of lingering.
I thought you was to go Prime 4.
There's a lingering fear in here for me. I feel like it's going to be well received in there, a nice little return, but I fear in terms of like hype that what's going to destroy to me is that counter move that you see Samus doing it. It's like you feel like it's going to get extremely overpowered, where people are just like, players could be using this in just that counter move over and over. But again, we've only seen a brief portion of SR3D8 in that game, so I don't know. But part of me is thinking like, okay, be optimistic, like be a little bit optimistic about it, whatever. So there's that. But if I had to pick a game in terms of like, I don't have as much hype for, but I am slightly worried. Ironically, it's Mario and Rabbids, a game that I'm glad it looks good, but I need more convincing. That's where I want to get out to it. So
yeah, that's cool.
But
I feel this has been a good discussion around all things hype.
Yes, I hope we're all hyped coming up for the 100th episode. Everybody is.
Yeah, it's a tie-in. On the note of that, I'll mention again very shortly at the end of the show. If you haven't realised already, we do these podcasts also over on YouTube in video form, and we also do them live. And we have been keeping to the same schedule, though we haven't really advertised it much on the show itself. But I wanted to make a special mention here for the 100th episode. Big episode next week. And so if you haven't tuned in before, please do. We are going to make it a more interactive show than usual. So we'll be keeping an eye on the live chat. And there will be some other interesting things you may be able to participate in as well. So please do check it out. And so the times to check it out, it's going to be on, let's just double check here, on the 25th of July, so next Tuesday. And that's going to be 4 p.m. Pacific time or 7 p.m. Eastern time. Or if you're over here in the UK, like myself and Colin, that's actually midnight on the 26th, technically.
Yes.
Also, I'll make sure the video is, like the holding video is on YouTube, waiting there. So if you go to youtube.com/Nintendo Voice, you'll be able to see in your local time how long there is till that video starts, and you can hit a reminder button, so it will alert you shortly before it starts. So please do check us out next time, or please check us out live, I should say. If you didn't check us out, you wouldn't hear this message. And so now, Harrison, are we ready for a bit of bonus round?
Yeah, we certainly are. I know I am. So
I don't believe you.
I don't believe it.
I'm going to entertain myself reading this marvelous Art of Splatoon book.
Oh, wow.
Look at how eager he was to show off the book he's got.
Well, I missed my moment earlier when we were talking about Splatoon. I had it next to me, but I failed to grab it.
Oh, wow, this is going to be the internet bot. I'm going to just shield you away with my Hyrule or my, what was it, like, I don't know.
Well, I don't have a book, but I do have a new amiibo. I have the amiibo. One issue I have with it.
I'll block you with that.
One issue I have with this, the Majora's Mask amiibo, is the mask is flat.
Flat?
Like it's completely flat. It's not like curved or anything. So I'm not sure how Link actually puts it on.
Like Mr. Game & Watch type flat.
It's flat. You think the mask would be curved? Right. Yes. Yes, it is in fact.
Seeing as we're doing show and tell, this might be mirrored mode here. Oh, that's out of focus as well. Can you see my playtime in Zelda now? May not be. Can you see that at all? That's way too blurry, isn't it?
How many?
Is it the green thing?
It would be green.
I see 200.
Basically, 205 so far. I've no idea how that happened. I've still not even got all this right.
Yeah, look at all these friends that you could be having right now, Colin. So.
Oh yeah, for the audio listeners here.
Yeah, look at that. But I think we do need to get to the bonus round. So last week, and you're holding. Lewis is holding up the Breath of the Wild cart right now. So we got something.
Harrison has warned you. Don't be fooled.
I've got mine. Don't worry.
Anyway, where's the disc on? Nothing happens without the disc.
The disc is in my system. I have to go and grab it in a minute. Anyway, Garrett, let's do the bonus round.
Okay. Anyway, last week we asked you about what are your thoughts on the current third-party support for the Nintendo Switch. So, your answers coming in obviously did not disappoint. We will start you off with Evan. We come from Evan Brewer from Twitter. His answer: pretty poor, to be honest. I'm surprised developers are making downscaled ultimate versions for the Switch, but the future is uncertain. I would agree in terms of uncertainty going forward, but I'm not really holding back too much. It just we had to discuss a lot in Link last week, so I don't want to divulge a little bit too much. Next answer comes from Andri Geschwin. That's weird. Is it GSCH? I apologize if I'm butchering your name there. With their answer, third-party support is great. Plenty of indies. The only thing missing are AAA third-party games, but I can replace them with first-party games.
That's very optimistic. Yeah.
Next answer comes from Kayudai with most multi-platform titles I'm not interested in, but when third parties make exclusive titles for Nintendo Switch, those are worth your time. I agree. I mean, if they take the time in terms of making a unique experience, things will come into it. But depending if it sells, I believe he did answer a little bit more. What did he say? Oh no, that was another answer. But next answer comes from Auntie Wicklin with Yoshi with bazooka. Yoshi with a bazooka, shooting stuff, and Blitzkrieg Luigi is also cool. Of course, a reference to Mario and Rabbids. So. It's pretty exciting. Next from Wolfix Plays with their answer: could be better, but I want to play games like Skyrim, Xenoverse 2, FIFA, and Steep on the go.
You will do at some point. Well, for Skyrim and Us 2, obviously, and FIFA.
I'm so confident about Steep.
Wait, what about Steep?
Is Steep coming to the Switch?
Exactly. It was announced ages ago, but we've not heard a word since.
I feel like they would have mentioned more about it by
now. Next answer comes from Wolfgang. It needs to get better, but it's already getting better for bigger games. Tons of great stuff at the bargain price point, though. Next answer comes from Laser Show. The indie support is fantastic, and I hope it continues. I sure hope so too. I should read these a little bit better. It's fine. Next one comes from James via Twitter. He just says, unfair. Developers put out content that's already available elsewhere for affordable prices and demand the game to sell in order for them to develop more games for the system. If I don't blame third parties if it doesn't sell and they don't feel like it's too much of a risk. I don't blame them. I do wish that
it kind of comes down to effort on their part. If they're going to release a shoddy port, then they're going to expect shoddy sales. Surely. Yeah, it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what usually happens, at least.
Thanks, Lewis.
That's the cycle.
Oh, jeez. Next answer comes from Champ Block with a GIF of just a turtle opening its mouth with the words "more." MOAR. There we go.
That's the best answer we've ever had.
Okay. Samurai Pixel Cats with it comes to the answer. There's third-party games on the Switch? ? Oh. Next answer from Donnie7789. I hate that Undertale is a PS4 exclusive, but other than that, pretty good. Loads of indie support and Sega, Capcom, EA, and Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, seems in there. And final answer comes from Matthew Gibson. Indie support is strong, like super strong, and I think that's good enough to be honest. Third-party journals do seem to have more faith in the system. Mario Rabbids is a great example of this. Third-party support seems more promising for Switch, I'd say. So, those are our answers for the day, for the bonus round, and I'm going to give Colin a chance of picking our answer here.
I might have given away my throat, but I can't give it to a GIF, can I?
It's up to you to decide. We've not had to make this difficult choice before.
That's the thing. I might give you just like originality points. No one's ever answered with a GIF before. So, yeah, I'm going to do it. So, Champ Blanc, I'm going to give it to you for answering with a GIF.
Awesome.
It's unique.
It certainly is.
All the answers were great. They really were.
Yeah, we had a surprising turn as well because we were a little late on the tweeting out the question at least.
Yeah, we are generally late on that. We need to get better at it. So trials and tribulations now of an independent podcast.
There's one way to win that battle. I've got something in mind. So Champ Blank. You are our winner this week. I don't believe you're a repeat winner before. So you win those Twisted Fusion goodies. They are the digital artbook and digital soundtrack of based off the game I made for Wii U called Twisted Fusion. Not the same name. So I'll send them your way. And so we do have another question for next week.
Ooh.
And the bigger news is it's the final bonus round. We have a final question to ask you. It's not a final show, don't worry. But we are
we're
changing things up. No, definitely not. So the final bonus round question is, and it's a little bit self-referential, but it does tie into the next episode, the big 100, is what is your favorite Nintendo voice moments or thing or time or something to do with Nintendo voice? Like, what's your favorite memory? Let us know what that is. And as always, just the most interesting, most entertaining, most original, the GIF, if there's only the one, wins. And only if there's one. And as a little extra, in addition to the usual Twisted Fusion goodies, the art book, the digital, I should say, art book and soundtrack, I shall include a copy of the Wii U game, assuming you still have a Wii U to play that on. Either way, you have the code and you can honour that code. Keep it in a little notepad file somewhere. So enter and win some prizes. You can enter either email hello@nintendovoice.com, on Twitter @NintendoVoice, or of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can add your answer into the video below. And that's going to do it for the bonus round. And I'm going to give another little reminder, even though it was only about 5 minutes ago. We mentioned it previously, but episode 100 is next week. Obviously, depending when in time you're listening to this episode in particular, that's going to be, I was about to say next Tuesday, ruining the whole thing. So that's going to be Tuesday, the 25th of July at 4 p.m. Pacific time or 7 p.m. Eastern time or midnight over in the UK here. If you go to youtube.com/Nintendo Voice, you'll be able to see the time in your local time and set a reminder. Please do try and catch it live. We are going to try and make it a more of a live show. We are going to be a bit more interactive in it. So it will be really great if you can listen live, watch live, and
join
your input live as well. And we'll field your questions and we'll have some fun stuff installed and planned. And you will have a little tease of what's to come for the future of Nintendo Voice. And before we do end the show today, we'll do the usual thing. And we'll go around the virtual room and we'll give out our own personal contact details, or if there's anything interesting happening in our internet lives that we would like to talk about outside of Nintendo Voice or inside. Colin's shaking his head, just as a warning. Harrison, would you like to go first?
Yes, you can reach me at Twitter at @hmilfeld, and you can friend me on Switch with I have my Switch number pinned on the top of the profile. And I'm no longer saying anything about Miiverse because I believe the Wii U got a recent update. It did, like a firmware update, and rumor is it might be the end of Miiverse at one point. So
yeah, it seems to be closing up shop soon. I'm wondering though, because they're still keeping obviously the 3DS alive, and that does support Miiverse. I wonder if it will still live on there for a little while, or it will just die there too at the same time.
I think they'll just phase it out. Yeah. All right, I guess I'll go next. You can find me on Twitter at HighlyUnbarred. Nothing to plug. Apart from that, I'm rapidly losing consciousness because it's quite late. But apart from that, it's nothing to plug.
Fair enough. At least you got that out there. For myself on Twitter, you can find me at Leuvision, which is LEUVSION. And all I really have to say is please do catch us live next time. Of course, if you are unable to catch it live, please do catch us in general. We should have some interesting stuff in terms of a normal show as well. I'm personally looking forward to it. I'm personally quite hyped. And on that note, we shall end the show. So thanks once again for listening. And this has been Nintendo Voice.
Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you at 100.
Yeah. Join us 100, folks.
It's gonna be a party.